Hey, everybody, I'm Tommy, and you are on the lifeboat. Mary, how are you? Ladybird Sue, good to see you. Diane, how are you? Nancy in Abbotsford, California, good to see you. Hope you're safe. Ladybird Sue, good to see you. David Clark, how are you? Texas Shenanigans in Carnosol. The little Jen. The little Jen that could. Carol Barnhart, good to see you. Holy hell, that's funny. Priska, good to see you. Darth Meeks, Hamster Heifer, Mayor's Girl, and from Massachusetts. Danette McClure, Anon, DNV 1983. Snake, how are you? Sir Tedrick Walker, Sarah Ballman, how are you? Ann Brown, Woofy, good to see you. Glad you're here. Ms. Clark, Shell, Mark Hardman. Can't do it. I got my ring on. It screws everything up. I don't know why I can't do that with a ring on, but I can't. Isn't that strange? Wow. Might have to switch it up. Katrina, good to see you in Carnosol. What's happening? Beverly, the nice one. Woohoo! Ghostwriter 611. Danette McClure. Roger, good to see you, man. From Ontario, Canada. All right. What day of the week is it? You know, I really get a kick out of the craft dinner thing. Kat, how are you? I used to spend a lot of time with Canadians because the skiers that I trained with were all Canadians. Layla Bradley, good to see you. Hey, Kat. Kat, damn, good to see you. Donna, how are you? All right, people. So let's go over a couple of things here real quick. This is going to be a fun one, folks. How's Hux? He's working out. He's still not right. And my back, Reese is feeling a little bit better. She had a tough morning, but she seems to be feeling better. Antonio, good to see you. My back's all right, people. My back is all right. Jan Marie, sorry, good to see you. So most of you have a pretty good idea of my background. I have been convicted of a lot of crimes, and I've been pretty open and honest about my past, right? And I spent a lot of it as a con man, doing long cons, honestly, ripping people off, which is probably an uncomfortable thing, but it puts you in a unique position when you retire, right? And you stop living the life that you were living. And one of the reasons I think that people watch when I talk about Diddy is because I bring to it probably what's going on. Charlie Muffins, good to see you. Sometimes I can tell you what's going on in a criminal's mind, maybe a little bit better than somebody on one of the big networks, because they tend to have spent more time in school than breaking the law. But I'm going to tell you something, folks. We're at a very unique part of this trial. They're moving around dates, and they're talking about all kinds of things that while Sean Combs sits in court and listens to this, it doesn't sound very interesting to him any more than it does a lot of people that aren't law geeks. Right? He's in there and he's crapping himself. And the realization that the four walls he's looking at might be what he looks at for the rest of his life, right? All of his lawyers, when they come in, let me tell you something, I promise you, when they come in, that fool gets to see internet stuff. My attorney used to bring in a laptop because we would work through stuff on the laptop. And I would, occasionally say stuff like, hey, can you look this up? And my attorney, the woman that I ended up marrying, was a by the books, believe it or not, kind of a person. And she wouldn't even turn the screen so I could look at it. I would imagine, though, that if I had been paying her $5 million, she'd just let me play on that thing. And I would imagine that Diddy has been able to read an awful lot online about how people think about him. One of the reasons his feelings are as hurt as they are concerning this guy, Mangione, right? Luigi Mangione, isn't because of how he's watching people treat him, because the guy's not in his unit. But he knows how the world is reacting to Luigi Mangione as much as he knows how the inmates are. Now, the guys in his unit will talk about him being a cool dude or whatever, but they're not in the same unit. That's what is being alleged. But trust and believe, Diddy is getting to that moment, that pre-trial moment where you go, shoot. If he doesn't start coming up with something that he can proffer for the United States of America, he is probably looking at spending the rest of his life in prison. Now, attorneys don't ever want to say that to their client. Kathy, good to see you. But the time is coming in the very near future where they're going to have that conversation. And make no mistake, lawyers will lie to you. And the more money that you pay a lawyer, the more they will lie to you. Lawyers don't promise things, right? They don't promise things. They will not say, I'm going to get you a short sentence. I hired the most expensive lawyer in the city that I lived in. I didn't. The girl that I was with did. My wife at the time hired him. Very, very expensive attorney. And I said to him, he said, we're going to try to get you out of there in 34 months. I said, the guidelines are higher than 34 months. And he said, I eat guidelines for breakfast. And then I got 90-something months. They will tell you what you want to hear because they got to keep that check coming in. They don't want you firing them before they get to trial. Once you get convicted, it's not like you can ask for your money back. Hey, I didn't get my money's worth, man. I got convicted. V-neck, good to see you. Luigi took his limelight. Diddy's going to take his booty for revenge. If he can get in the same unit, there's probably a decent chance of him giving that a try. Yeah, they want to bleed him out as much as possible. And you know something? Let me tell you something else. I'm not trying to bag on any attorneys, right? But let's say you got a car that you don't want to lose. You know how many times, and I'm not saying that I did this, but do you know how many times someone will say, I can't afford to continue to pay you. I stand a chance of going to prison on this thing. What if I sign my car over to you? Right? What if I got a car that's worth $60,000 or $70,000? Could I sign that over to you for $40,000 worth? All you're doing is protecting your stuff, right? If you can get a lawyer that you can start pushing assets toward, but regardless, right? Diddy has got to be coming to the realization, reading everything that he's reading out there, knowing how many lawsuits he's got pending. He's got to know this ain't going his way. He hasn't really won any major battle in court. And I think, this is just Tommy's opinion here, folks. One convict talking. Hey, Pat Hansen, this is just my opinion. Just my opinion. But I think that as the diddler looks at this case, he's going to have to start right around the time that they decide whether or not they're going to allow everything that was photographed, right? They went in there in James Bond style, took pictures of everything that dude had in his cell, his legal work. If they're unable to get all of that thrown out, Diddy's going to start cutting deals. That's my prediction right now. Diddy's going to start doing whatever he can to cut deals. I spent a lot of this morning going over the Christina Karam angle. Spent a lot of time deep diving Christina Karam, which is a very difficult thing to do, right? Because she went and disappeared off the face of the earth as soon as he got arrested. No one's seen hide or hair of her. No, lawyers are not cheap, man. They're absolutely not cheap. This depends on the attorney. Chris Kaiser says, how long does it take most prisoners, you think, to realize the true gravity of their situation once they're locked up? This has a lot to do with the intelligence level of the inmate and by how their attorney works, right? No, I don't feel bad for him, Sonny. The lawyer's bleeding him. No, I don't feel bad for him. So depending on your intelligence level, right? I knew guys that I told the story on the boat before, but there was a guy, he's doing life in prison. He killed a Vietnam veteran, a decorated Green Beret Vietnam veteran. Guy lived in a trailer park and he would get high. He'd smoke meth every once in a while. And this kid showed up saying he wanted to buy some. And instead of pulling out the 3.5 grams or whatever that the dude normally had laying around the house, he pulled out a very big bag, which probably was worth, $1,000 or something like that. But the guy went back to his car. He said, I'm going to get more money. And he came back in with a lead pipe and beat the dude to death. The guy was in his 60s, but he beat the dude to death. And then he stole his car. He did a lot of other stupid stuff and really like how to get caught 101. He steals the guy's car and then sells it, writing out a bill of sale, right? So they caught him very, very quickly, and he pled guilty fast because the judge said, if you plead guilty today, I will give you 25 years to life, meaning after 25 years, you'd have a shot of probation. But if this were to go in front of a jury, we're going to go for the death penalty, right? Told him straight out how it's going to be. So what does this fool do? He decides he wants to take his plea back because he talked to a couple of jailhouse lawyers who convinced him that he could beat this. So at the time, I was my girlfriend was an attorney, and he said, hey, do you think I could ask her questions? just one or two. And I said, if the cop doesn't care, I doubt that my lawyer would. I said, but you can ask the cop. And the cop said, nah, go ahead. If she's fine with it. So I had talked to her about it in the past. And she said, yeah, go ahead. What's your question? And we were all standing there. They didn't want to let him go into an office alone because she was not his attorney. So we were all standing there, and he goes, this judge, right? I'm trying to take my plea back. What do you think the chances are she's going to let me take back my plea? And my then girlfriend said, I have known this person for 4 years of my time clerking and doing all of this. I have never seen her allow anybody to take back a plea, ever. However, I do know that it happened once about 15 or 20 years ago because I heard her talk about it. So to the best of my knowledge, it's only happened once in the entire career. And I swear to you, this jackwagon does the Dumb and Dumber thing and goes, so you're saying there's a chance? I'm not even being funny. He went in there and said, they sentenced him. He kept saying to us that day, I'm going in there to change my plea. We're having a change of plea argument. Everybody knew, like, this ain't going to be a change of plea. She's going to get in there and say, I'm not letting you change your plea. We're going to move forward with the sentencing. So when she said, do you have any remorse? He said, no, I didn't do anything. He'd already pled guilty and then removed the plea back. He got life in prison without the possibility of parole. Right? So sometimes people don't get it ever. Sometimes they're just stupid. But if you got some snap, right? If you got some snap, your attorney is going to sell you a bunch of rainbows and BS. But right around the time that all of the motions that he's going to file, because he or she in the beginning is going to say to you, we're going to get the evidence suppressed. We're going to get that. We're going to get your interview thrown out. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. Right around the time that stuff stops being real. Right around the time the judge goes, no, we're not going to let you out. I would imagine for the diddler, right around the time he lost his third chance of trying to get out on bail. And the realization of how Judge Subramanian did that bail hearing, he walked out of there going, I'm not wasting $5 million on an appeal for bail because they're not going to let me out. They're on to me, right? They're on to him. Diddy thought, you got to understand, when he went in for that bail hearing, he thought all those calls he was making on other people's PAC number, right? He thought all of those were on the slick. He thought nobody was listening to any of those calls. And he was tampering with witnesses, right? That's why he had to do it. Allegedly, sorry. Allegedly he was tampering with witnesses. And I don't know, why would he need somebody else's PAC number, right? He had already run out of his 300 minutes. I guess that's a possibility, right? I guess, but if that's not the case, if he hadn't run out of his time, then he was trying to go undetected with his phone calls, yeah? And the reason he wanted to be undetected is allegedly this was to say stuff like, hey, you need to get out there and talk to this person. You need to get out there and talk to that person, whatever the case may be. Now, how does he cut a deal? Because it ain't like the movies, right? It doesn't work like that. Even if you're Sean Puffy Combs, it doesn't work where you say, I will give up this person, and this person, and you're going to give me a 5-year sentence. Now, that might happen in the state. Don't send me an email and say, that's exactly how they do it. Because that might happen in the state. I don't know. But in the federal government, there's nothing like that. So this is how the federal government does it. Because if you're asking for a deal, you're in a crap load of trouble, right? You don't think you got a case. You don't think you got a chance of getting off. That's why you're cutting a deal, right? So the feds hold every single card. Here's what they've come up with for their program. You write a proffer letter. The first time you hear about this, you go, there's no way this can be real. You write them a proffer letter, and the letter says, I could give you Suge Knight, I could give you Snoop Dogg, I could give you, and you write down all the lists. They would say, this doesn't tell me anything. What do you mean you could give them to us? Well, I could tell you that on this date, I did this with this guy, and on that date, I did this with this guy, and on this date, I did this with this guy, and the four of us conspired to do this, this, and this. Then you hand it over to them, and they go, okay, we can work together. And you go, okay, good. So if I testify to all that, what do I get? Oh, I can't tell you. I can't tell you. We'll wait until sentencing. The guy that ratted me out on the bank robberies and cut a deal got 4 months off his sentence. 4 months. I can give you the worst I've ever heard. The worst I've ever heard was Greg Scarpa Jr. Now, if you know who Greg Scarpa is, if you're a gangster, if you're somebody that's into gangsters, you know who Greg Scarpa is. Greg Scarpa is one of the original old school gangsters. had a part in what they called Murder Incorporated with Benny Siegel and a couple of other guys, where they started hitting for every family. They were just hitmen that would go out and knock people off for anybody, and they killed a grip of people, right? There were bodies all over the place. Well, his kid, Greg Scarpa Jr., got hemmed up, and he found himself in one of these MDCs, right? Men detention centers, not a county jail. He was at a men's detention center waiting to go to trial, and he was in the SHU, the segregated housing unit. And like so many other SHUs, it was the most disgusting place on earth. And they had begun to chip the mortar out between the cells. I mean, you're not going to kill anybody, but if you got a cigarette, you could pass it through a hole in the wall, right? Or if you got a letter or whatever. And there were some people who were accused of the T word, not the one that having to do with driving around, the one that has to do with buildings coming down, right? People flying them into buildings and things like that. So these T people were on either side of him, and he was in the middle. And the guy said, hey, will you pass this letter to me, to so-and-so? Now, this may sound crazy to you, but a convict usually isn't going to pass a letter unless he can read it. Because for all you know, you're ordering your own death, right? Or a hit on your best friend or whatever. So normally a convict will say, well, what's in the letter? Like, I'm going to read it. Yeah, fine, read it. I don't care. I'm asking so-and-so for some dope, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. Well, the letter that they passed him, right, was written in a language he couldn't read. And he said, I'm not passing something I can't read. And they said, it says death to America, like that kind of stuff, right? It was trash in the country and this and that. And he played it up, and he goes, oh, I'm cool with that. And he started to hand the notes between them. And then, because he's slick, he did what Diddy's doing right now. He thought, you know what? This ain't ratting. These people want to hurt the country. I'm not ratting. It's not like these people work with me or anything. I'm just doing America a solid. Maybe I can get a little time off my sentence, right? So Scarpa says, hey, I can get you a call through my attorney. So when you get the phone brought to you, because in the SHU, they bring you the phone to your food slot, and you bend down on your knees, and you got to like stick your head into the food slot to make a phone call. But he said, you call my lawyer, and my lawyer will piggyback to any number you want, and nothing will be recorded. And of course, this was a setup. The government knew what was going on, and the government was recording all of these people. You heard of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed? Right? For real. A bunch of the dirt they got on Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, they got because of this operation. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he got 16 months. Whatever he got off, it was horrific. It was one of those things that you heard and went, what? There's no way they did him that dirty, right? There's no way they did him that dirty. But they don't have to deal. They don't have to do anything, right? So most inmates find themselves at that panic motion when they realize that that they're not going to get any love at all for all of these filings and all the BS that their attorneys have been pumping them. Diddy's waiting right now. The judge, there was a little victory for Diddy when the judge said to the prosecution, well, you're going to have to prove this. You're going to have to give me a little bit more. They were making reference to exactly what we were talking about earlier, right? The lawyer-client privilege. The alleged documents that should not have been able to be read by anybody other than Sean P. Combs and his attorney. Got it? Of course, that's BS because they wrote legal on the top afterwards. By the way, I mean, if it's your legal notes and what you got in it, I mean, it's really supposed to be sacrosanct. But we know what he wrote in that book is incriminating as hell. If he loses that, I would imagine he's going to start trying to write out that proffer letter. And now starts to get into the really interesting questions, right? The really interesting questions like, does he have a suicide, like a dead man switch? So that if this is going to go down, he's going to get it taken care of. Question, the feds have started making inmates pay for phone calls on New Year's Day. What happened to people that don't have any family and friends to put money on their books? This is so not right. I have never gotten one free call in the feds. I don't know if they used to do that, but when I was in, every single call you made, you paid for. Either that or the people on the other end had to take a collect call, and then it's about $20 to talk to them for 15 minutes. But you always had to pay. And indigent people, here's the crazy thing. I did this on a Christmas day. No joke. This guy said to me, he goes, man, I haven't talked to my old lady in like a year. I said, why? And he's like, well, I lost my phone privileges and this and that. And I said, hey, dude, give me your girl's phone number and I'll put it on my account. Just like Diddy did with the PAC numbers. And I said, I'll call your girl up when I get her on the phone. I'll give you the phone and you can say Merry Christmas and do all that. So while dude was on the phone saying Merry Christmas, they came down, got him off the phone, got me out of the day room, and boom, wrote both of us up. Like they just listen to calls in the feds. But yeah, they're not doing nothing for free, man. They're not doing anything for free. They're just not. You're going to pay for it, and you're going to pay a lot. But I used to pay about $130 a month for 300 minutes. It would cost me $130 a month to make 300 minutes worth of phone calls to my girl. It was because of the C plus math. Oh, so they were letting people call for free during the C plus math. Here's the deal. I was in for that. But it wasn't like we could use the phones anyway. I was leaving. So I left in October of 2020, right? I got out in October of 2020. So I was right in the middle of the pandemic. I was on 24-hour-a-day lockdown in my cell. And they may have been giving out free phone calls to people. They might have been, but we didn't have access to phones. You got out, they let you out 3 cells at a time to shower. So 3 upstairs cells and 3 downstairs cells, because there was 3 showers downstairs and 3 upstairs. So they would let out 6 people at a time, right? And you had 10 minutes. That's 10 minutes to shower, charge your MP3 player, check your emails, make a phone call. It ain't happening. You know, you were going to give up your shower and make a phone call to your girl. And then the other thing is this: if you get on the phone and you talk for 10 minutes because you didn't shower, the guy getting out of the shower is going to be like, dude, I need a phone call. How did I stay safe in prison? Well, I don't know that I did. Honestly, I don't know that I did. I got stabbed. I got beat. You know what I mean? I got in a lot of fights. I lost tons of good time. Then I got sober. And once I got sober, I got myopic and I started looking at things that were important to me. You know? You think Diddy is making good Pruno baby oil with the wino soap? He's having the one of his life. Yeah, you know, here's the deal. Just the weird guy in the shower all day. Well, and also the shower shark, right? For real. He's going to be one of those dudes that hangs out by the shower. They call them shower sharks inside. If they get the feeling you're staring into the shower, they're going to get rid of you really quickly. Do you think the diddler will use his mom's you-know-what parties when he was a kid as a defense? No, I don't think he will. It's a really great defense, right? But his mom is still alive, and it would require Ciroc Pruno. Well played. They would have to throw he'd have to throw Janice under the bus. I don't see him doing that. Not with her still alive, right? Now, more is coming out about this because the Peacock documentary is going to break after tomorrow. And by all accounts, the Peacock documentary goes deep into the early days of Sean Diddy Combs. And you know something? Look, a guy can be a scumbag and you can say, I feel bad for the dude, right? Because here's the thing. No matter what Sean Diddy Combs is doing to people right now, at one point he was a 2-year-old boy who shouldn't have watched his mom having sex with 3 or 4 people in a day in front of him. He shouldn't have seen orgy parties at the age of 2. I can feel bad for that 2-year-old and still hate the 55-year-old guy. You know what I mean? I hope I can. I'd like to think I can. Sir Tedrick Walker, I was reading that earlier. My second eldest is in Cali right now after being in county. Cali's a tough place to do time. You keep your head down. You know what I mean? If you don't gamble and you don't do dope, right? And you're not having intimate relations with any men, you can go through your sentence. This is the biggest misconception about prison. You walk through the front door and you're a white dude that looks like Steve Urkel, right? You are 130 pounds soaking wet, and you got the word victim written all over you. Like you look like a dude that could just be pushed up on wicked easy, right? And then you produce your paperwork, and it says you were selling drugs, right? It says that you never done anything other than sell drugs and that you didn't rat on anybody. No one in there is going to mess with that dude. They might clown on him. They might call him Urkel. They might tease him a bit, but nobody's going to be ripping this dude off simply because they can. It doesn't happen in there. There is a honor among thieves. If your paperwork is good, you're not going to get taxed. There's enough people with bad paperwork to tax. They're not. It's a misconception because people go, oh, that weighs 110 pounds. He's going to get killed when he goes to prison. What's he in there for? Right? He's a 110-pound bank robber. He's going to do his sentence just fine, I promise. Unless He starts gambling with money he doesn't have. He starts running up dope debts he can't pay, or he starts screwing around with guys sexually, right? That's the fastest way to get killed in prison, is that start screwing around with a man sexually. Because one of two things is going to happen. The fellas are going to be in one of those places that don't allow that period, and they're going to go after you bad. Or you'll be in one of those places where that can take place. On the lower custody levels, there are guys in there doing this, right? But jealousy becomes an issue, right? You get a jealous guy who thinks that that dude's his boyfriend, and you're screwing around with his boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever you want to call it. That's some dangerous stuff. This is funny as hell. This is usually how stuff goes too, man. Right? I looked like Harry Potter when I was in, so they called me Dirty Harry. I love that. I love that. I can think of the really funny nicknames that people that went through, like when I went to prison in the state, that Finding Nemo movie was pretty popular. So when, with kids and stuff. So when people came in, when somebody came in and they were a fish, when they were brand new, people would call them Nemo. And that name, like, there were so many Nemos. How old was my son when I was in? 13? Started at about 13. Do you feel like you have lived many lifetimes in one? I feel like that sometimes, so I am curious. Yeah, absolutely. I will fairly routinely make reference to my previous life. In my previous life, I did this or this, right? In my previous life, because a lot gets made, and for logical reasons, a lot gets made about the crime, right? It's the drugs. For me, I wasn't a criminal as much as I was a drug addict. I did a lot of crime, but I did a lot of crime because I had to do. If you have to come up with $700 a day every single day, right? It's what's that, $5,000 a week, right? And that's just to feed your arm. That's not to eat. That's not to pay car payments and do insurance and all that stuff. And that's why those things tend to take a back seat. You feel me? Like, I don't give a shit about my car payment if I can't put a needle in my arm, and I don't give a crap about insurance if I'm dope sick, and I don't give a crap about my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, my kids, right? Until you can get the smack out of your life. By the way, huge shout out to our guy, Turd Ferguson. Turd Ferguson and I spoke today. He is in rehab. He was in there for smoking the Bolivian marching powder, so he was doing the rocked version of it, and has struggled lifelong with this. But he's just a really solid cat. And every once in a while you work with somebody and you got like wild high hopes for the person. I root for everybody. You know what I mean? But there are people who you talk to and you go, oh, this dude's ready to get sober, right? Like, this person is just ready to get sober. That's our guy, Terry Ferguson, for real. Like, and he is, we're going to take this ride with him. We've done this a couple times before on the boat. When there's people who are willing, when there's people willing to sort of let you share that with them, it's pretty wild. And I brought that up because I promise you, Turd Ferguson started a brand new life yesterday. It's pretty wild stuff because you can't say that more. You can't make it bigger than it is, right? Yeah, he's not here, but for Turd Ferguson and for his inspiration, because Tiffy Tiff, without Tiffy Tiff, he wouldn't be in there, and that's just the way it is. You got to do it for you. No, you don't. I promise. Every great rehab story, when the person decides to get sober, they hate themselves. They're at rock bottom. Right? I mean, there are stories of people that get sober and it's fantastic, but the ones that really catch you, it's because the person was such a dirtbag. I mean, you look at them and just go, God, how do they go from that person to this person? Because chemicals are a mother, man. Right? Chemicals are a mother. But I got really high hopes for Turd Ferguson. Tell me, but Diddy's paperwork is not good. He's got SA allegations, domestic V, and messing with kids. These charges inmates do not tolerate. You're damn right. Now, they will tolerate them where he is at right now. Because when they say, well, he's in general population, he's in a unit. That means there are people around him. He's not in general population. Every person in that unit was handpicked to be in that unit. You know what they all have in common? As the fellows would say, you probably hear this later on Night Yard, because this is a convict expression, big time. but they would say that dude wouldn't bust a grape at a food fight, right? He ain't gonna pull the trigger, right? That's never gonna happen. They got nothing to worry about. So they get a unit full of people that will not pull the trigger. You get a unit full of people that are not gonna get in a fist fight, and then you can drop P. Diddy in it. You can also drop in people that are diaper snipers. You know what I mean? You can put people in that messed with kids, because nobody in that unit is going to do anything about it. And the feds, just like the state, are really good at assembling units like that. But I'll make you a promise. The reason they're good at assembling units like that is because everybody in there, including this lowlife, are innocent until proven guilty. Right? Everybody in there is innocent until proven guilty. So they got to protect that dude. What happens if the guy gets stomped out like a brush fire and then they find out later that he was innocent? That's bad form. So they really got to protect people because he has not been convicted yet. But once he gets convicted, you're going to find out, right, that it's going to be a completely different ballgame. They're not going to try to save him nearly as much. They don't. They can't, by the way. They can't. In MDC Brooklyn, you're like, well, they can do it there. How come they can do it there? Because at any given time, MDC Brooklyn's got about 1,300 people in it, right? Out of that 1,300 people, 10% might be scumbags, so you can call them off into a unit. Well, in the BOP proper, you got 127 prisons, right? Or 129 prisons. 3 of them Diddy can go to, right? It's a very, very small, there's not a lot of places to put these guys. And there's not enough of them in a place that size to fill a 1,600-man prison 3 times. There just aren't. So he's going to be in there with ex-gang dropouts and killers. Killers. Question, when a person is an addict, do they really not care about anybody or anything except getting high? Yes, I did. I don't know about every addict. That was me. The only thing that mattered was getting high. And not because you're a bad person, but because you give the control of your ship to a chemical. Then the chemical makes the decisions, right? This is Terry, my girlfriend. Terry, my girlfriend, wants to get in the way of me doing heroin. I'm going to get rid of Terry, my girlfriend, because the most important thing in my life was not getting sick. It wasn't getting high, right? That except getting high thing, to be really honest with you, most junkies haven't gotten high in years. Right? Those days are, you get high the first couple of years you do the substance. And then you get to the point where the only high is going from that feeling of, oh my God, I'm going to die, to, oh my God, I feel normal. And that 6 seconds that it takes is what you see in the movies when guys go, ah, right? It's that relief of, I don't feel like I'm going to die anymore. But the thing is, every morning when that dope is worn off, all they can think about is their kids, their parents, all of the people that they're doing dirty, right? That overwhelming feeling of, I'm the worst person on earth. And there's one thing that will make that go away, right? And that's doing more of the drug. You do the drug and you feel like a new man. The trouble is that new man has to do more of that drug. Then he feels like a new man, but he needs to do more of that drug. And the next thing you know, 30 years have gone by and you've been in 3 prisons, right? It sucks, but it's the truth. Tommy, if you spent $5,000 a week for 30 years, that means in 30 years you spent $7,930,000 on dope. Well, by way of full disclosure, for the first probably 5 years, it wasn't anywhere close to that. You build up that tolerance over time. I wasn't doing those kind of numbers in the beginning. However, in the beginning, the dope was 4 times more expensive. When I first started buying that stuff, it was almost $300 a gram. Now you can get a gram of it for about $30 in some states. So it's really, really changed. In a lot of places, it's still about $100 a gram, but it really is. So yeah, I know I've blown millions. I try not to think about it too much, but a couple of times in my life, I was very wealthy and I was just out. I mean, every week I didn't have to go steal or I didn't have to go do any of those things because I had money, but it's amazing just how much is going out. I've told the story before, but we had an office and there was 3 of us in the office that were addicted to heroin and we were making huge money. But we would come back and the stuff is sold in balloons, right? With 1/10 of a gram in each balloon. So you tear the top off of the balloon, right? And inside is a little square piece of paper, usually a cut up trash bag, white trash bag that holds the stuff so it doesn't stick to the inside of the balloon and you can get it off because it's a sticky, tarry substance. And we would take those little square pieces of paper and throw them into a filing cabinet in the office. It just became a habit. There was like one chair that we fixed that. And when we shut the office down and we were getting ready to move it, Johnny Scoville, my brother, came out to help me move. And I remember him opening up that drawer and going like this and putting his hands in it. And it was, I'm not joking, people. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of these things in there, these little papers. Like, and we filled a Glad 3-ply bag with these things. And my brother went, good God, those are $10 bills, right? Every one of those is a $10 bill. And you just go, yeah, I don't really want to think about that. Like, could we change the subject real quickly? Off topic's probably good since this topic's, it's just a tad dark. My daughter, who has cut me off for years, serious heroin addict, just started following me on Instagram. I'm wondering if this may be the first steps towards recovery. Of course it is. Of course it is. Absolutely it is. These are the overt actions of somebody that wants to change. Right? Trust me, as a person addicted to heroin for 30 years, I would not have gone onto Facebook to look at anybody for any reason. Something good is happening in your daughter's life. Get some thoughts and prayers for that, because honest to God, that's huge. That's a big deal. Heroin addicts, I promise you, it's just not something we would do. I mean, and I'm not trying to bum anybody out, right? Unless she's getting ready to con you. That's the only other option, is that this is a con and she's going to start doing the drip method. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but I did this. So if the first conversation is, everything is fantastic, life is perfect. Yeah, everything is good. There's a weird knocking sound on my car. That's a setup. In a week, they'll try to harvest that. They'll tell you how the car isn't running right. And then they'll say, yeah, that knock, I had to go over and get it looked at. I'm not saying that's the case, but I also don't BS anybody. It's like when people say to me, hey, I got a friend who's in prison. I'm like, has he asked you yet? Has he said he needed money because somebody broke their MP3 player, or he borrowed something from somebody that got broken and the person's going to kill him? Okay, they're on drugs. Those things don't happen. If a fight happens, right? If a fight truly happens in there and someone's MP3 player gets broken in a fight, no one's going to kill you over that. It's not like that. I promise you it's not. But those are the stories. I used to be on the phone talking to my significant other, and you would hear 3 guys telling the same story. Yeah, babe, I borrowed this guy's MP3 player and I was working out and a weight dropped on it. And these things, man, he's got songs on it and shit. He's pissed. If I don't get like $300, this dude's going to kill me. They're all telling the same stories, man. When a person goes through detox and is feeling good, why go back and start again? Well, that's really the best question ever asked, isn't it? Okay, here's the answer. And this is not just for smack. This is for anything. It's always a better question for something that has a physically dependent. Why would you ever go back to something that was physically dependent? If it was already killing you, why would you do it again? What are you, stupid? Makes no sense. Well, it doesn't make sense, does it? None. And it doesn't make sense because the mind of the addict, right? We're diseased. The mind of the addict doesn't work like a normal person's, right? The normal person goes, oh my God, I'm free. I would never go back to that. The addict goes, I am so uncomfortable right now. Like in my skin, I am so uncomfortable. I can't describe it, but I am so uncomfortable. I feel like my skeleton wants to jump out of my flesh and run the hell away. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to look at anybody. You just get this feeling. And the only thing that makes that feeling go away is heroin. So you ride this honeymoon of 2 days of going, oh my God, I'm not dope sick, man. I feel fantastic. And then day 4, you start looking around the house going, what am I doing? And then the automatic negative thoughts start talking to you. You're addicted to this shit. You're not happy. You're miserable. Yeah, you might be clean, but you're miserable. You're never going to be happy without it. Why are you even wasting your time? How many times have we done this? Seriously, no shit. What are we going to do? Stay sober for 60 days and then just go back? We're wasting our time. Why are we doing this? Call the dope man, cut out the middleman, and let's get back to feeling good. You want to feel crappy for 2 weeks to convince yourself you can't live this way? And those voices just keep going until you stop them. That's it. Ants don't stop. You have to stop them. And you either stop them by sticking a needle in your arm, or you stop them by learning coping mechanisms. You design a new human being, right? And you learn how to handle situations without sticking needles in your arms. Tell me, what's your definition of an alcoholic? For example, is it someone who drinks all day, every day, or someone that just drinks every evening? As a rule of thumb, right? My definition of somebody that's addicted to any substance is someone that cannot live without it, right? So people say to me, I'm not sure if I'm an alcoholic. I think I might be. Well, you could stop drinking for 2 weeks. We know how that works out. Now, before you do that, if you're drinking a fifth a day and you stop drinking, it can kill you. So talk to a doctor before you stop drinking alcohol ever, right? Acute alcohol withdrawal can kill you. The delirium tremens can actually take you off planet Earth. Alcohol, benzodiazepines, and people will say methadone. I'll tell you what, I cold turkeyed methadone off of 300 milligrams a day. Now that I may have just gotten lucky. I've never actually, I don't know the science behind that. I do know the science behind alcohol and benzos. And I promise you, people, quitting those cold turkey can kill you. But the definition is a person that can't live without the substance. That substance is their coping mechanism, right? Oh my God, life is awful. I need a drink, right? My life is awful. I need a shot. I want this to go away. I need a fix. I want this. I need. People who drink because they want to drink, right? You can drink every single day for 365 days and not be an alcoholic. It's a disease. It's something that you have or you don't have. Now, doesn't mean you can't be an abusive drinker and not be an alcoholic. There are people that drink every single day because they drink every single day. They don't have the gene, which means if they stopped and you could get them to, they could walk away from it. The alcoholic will not be able to walk away. He will have to learn an entirely new life in order to do that. How did you get into drugs and why that road in all respect? Well, you're not going to hurt my feelings, I promise. I got into drugs because I was a drug addict. Inside me was a disease waiting to happen, right? I was uncomfortable in my own skin. At a very, very early age, I was horrifically uncomfortable in my own skin. And I couldn't figure out why. If you saw me, you wouldn't have thought I was. I was the life of the party, right? But I was always uncomfortable in my own skin. And I made up for it by being very talkative, very verbose. I was kind of like in your face. But I was miserable. And then when I was about 12 years old, I smoked pot for the first time. And I was not comfortable in my own skin, but I was a hell of a lot closer to comfortable in my own skin. I really was. I felt like I had found something that made me feel more normal, that made me feel what I thought other people probably felt like. And then I tried blow and I tried this and I tried that. And when a painkiller got into my system, I skied and I was always injured, and I played sports. I was always injured and I was always on pain meds, and they didn't do a damn thing. But the first time I took them when I didn't need them, first time I took pain medication and I wasn't in pain, it was a wrap. Because instantly I was comfortable in my own skin. I had never felt like that. I felt perfect. There was no discomfort in any way. And there shouldn't be, should there? It's a painkiller, right? And if there's no physical pain to kill, then it's got to go find other pain to kill. And it will find spiritual pain or emotional pain or psychological pain or whatever, right? Make all that right. So for people like me, it was out there and nobody ever explained to me any of this stuff. So when I got addicted to it the first time and people said to me, oh, all you got to do is set it down. And, once you get clean, you won't even want to do it again. Once you get the stuff out of your system, I'd get it out of my system. And the draw to go back to it, you have no idea. I would tell you things and I promise you wouldn't even believe them. But I used to handcuff myself to shit, right? No joke. Me and my friend Jeff got dropped 40 miles out in the middle of the woods, right? To try to kick and do this stuff because the desire, I'll eat my way through those chains. Now, I have learned over time that the way that you win a fist fight with your drug of choice is you don't get in a fist fight with your drug of choice. I have conquered heroin because I don't do heroin. If I were to do it tomorrow, my life would be over by the following weekend. It's just how it works. And I don't mean it would be over, I'd be dead. I mean, I would be on my way back to prison and nothing would stop until they put handcuffs on me. That's how I stopped doing heroin. Every time I stop, it's because somebody puts my hands behind my back and clamps those handcuffs down so tight I can't get away. That is how I quit every single time I quit. Sad but true, right? But that drug's got my number. Now, here's the thing. If I was a diabetic, right? And we're going to have to get to a place. And it's the reason that I started the channel, believe it or not. Yeah, I want to help people. I really do. Fancy Nancy, or FC Nancy, sorry. We do have a lot of you. FC Nancy, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. You look fantastic in green. One of the reasons that I started this channel, right? This is that which cannot be explained, right? For real. I would like people to kind of, this is such a weird concept, but imagine me saying to somebody, hey, so this lupus thing, right? What caused that? Well, you have the disease lupus, right? But we would never think the same thing about an alcoholic, right? Well, no, he's a screw up. He's a guy that went out and drank too much and he couldn't quit drinking. And then, his disease is no different than the cat that's got lupus. The only difference is the guy that has lupus isn't ashamed of having lupus. The guy who has lupus doesn't get up in the morning and look in the mirror and go, I am a effing weakling because I have lupus, right? The world is right. I'm a piece of shit. I have lupus. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that with diabetes. And you know what's a kick? With diabetes, right? Type 2, it's the exact same thing. Literally exactly, right? I'm born with a predisposition to being a heroin addict. If I never have heroin, it's not going to be an issue. If I live in a place where heroin doesn't even exist, I'm never going to see a pain pill, nothing like that. My affliction is never going to be an affliction, right? It'll be in there, but it's going to lie dormant. Same thing. A guy gets or a gal gets born with the predisposition for type 2 diabetes. Well, you're going to have to you make some life decisions like you drink sugary stuff and you don't exercise. And there's all these things that you can do that will take the precursor that's in your body, the predisposition, and turn it into it through lifestyle. Well, that's addiction. I promise. But the only difference is nobody beats on people who have lupus, right? Oh, and here's the other difference that's huge. If you go into a doctor's office and he says, Tommy, you have cancer, you don't go, bullshit. See you next time. I don't buy it. I'm going home. Thanks. You don't know what you're talking about, right? You'd sit down and go, damn, what kind of cancer? What do we got to do? I mean, how do we fight this? Where do we start? Is this a chemo thing? Is this a radiation thing? What do we got to do? I'll start today. Where do we got to go? Right? Tommy, I think you're a drug addict. Man, you don't know me. Fool, shut up, dude. Yeah, I do some dope, but I ain't addicted to nothing. You don't know shit, right? Think you're smart because you got letters after your name? It's the only substance, the only disease out there that will force a person instantly to say, I don't have a disease. I don't have a disease. You know what the hell you're talking about. You're stupid. That's what you are. You're stupid. No, I mean, I get high. And I get high because I want to get high. I get high because I like the feeling of getting high. I'm not a drug addict. I can set that crap down anytime I want, right? I just haven't wanted to since 1988, right? Since the Carter administration. I know Carter wasn't 88. He was close. Ooh. I had surgery and was pretty healthy, but the doc prescribed me 100 pills of Percocet, and I used 2 for pain. They made me dizzy, so I threw the other 98 pills in the garbage. Sir Tedrick Walker, do you know something that's hysterically funny? I'm not kidding. So this June 27th will be 10 years without heroin in my life. Yay, Tommy. But when you said you threw the other 98 pills in the trash, and I knew that those were oxycodone pills, right? I started to mourn the pills that you threw in the trash. I'm not being funny. Instantly, I was bummed out that those 100 pills got wasted. And this is 10 years later, right? It's 10 years later. It's crazy, right? It's absolutely crazy, but that's just the way it goes. Thank you for all the difference you make daily. Thank you, AB. Really appreciate you. Yeah, I'm pretty damn happy about the 10 years. But forever and forever, I promise you, I'm always going to be that person. I really am. I'm always going to be that person. I'm also going to be the person where if I go into your house, right? Corbs will tell you this. We dealt with this when I was helping her move in Kansas City. I was helping pack stuff up, and I went to her and said, those 2 bottles of pills, you need to do something with those and get them away from me, right? Quickly. Get them away from me. And here's the thing. Did I want to use? I didn't. I didn't want to use it all. In fact, I looked at the bottle and I went, hydrocodone, right? There's like a 60 or 70 or something. There was 2 different bottles. I went, hydrocodone. I don't want that crap, right? Stuff doesn't even do anything to me. I needed a way stronger, I could eat 40 of them or whatever, but that stuff doesn't do anything for me, right? I don't want that. And then I walked around, and about 20 minutes later, I thought to myself, when I used to play golf, I used to eat like 15 of those at a time and put a couple of beers on them. And they were actually, and right around that time, I was like, I got to go tell her to get these things the hell out of here, because that's what happens, right? Your mind, you start to romanticize the buzz, right? This is what happens to addicts. And it's another one. It's kind of an addendum to the question, how do you go back and use again? Because when you start to romanticize and you start to remember, what you remember is that feeling of going, oh my God. and not caring what was going on in your life. That feeling of finding out that somebody had just passed away and you were the only person in the room that could handle it because your emotions were turned off like a light switch. Right? People used to go, yeah, dude's a rock. Dude's not a rock. Dude's drugged. Right? His emotions are turned off. And I'm not going to lie to you. There's something to that. You know what I mean? Why, thank you. That's very kind. And I could use the like. You know what, Roxy Cole? It sounds like it was strong of me. If I were strong, I could be in a room with those things. But these things, it's not about it's a learned behavior, right? It's a learned behavior for real. It's a learned behavior. There are other learned behaviors, right? I remember being in a house with somebody, and there were like 20 people. Everyone was just sort of milling around. It was a party, and on this woman's kitchen table was her purse. And walking by this woman's purse, you could see a stack of $100 bills in the purse. I don't know how much was in there, but it was a lot of money. And I remember pulling her husband aside, and I knew him really, really well. And I said, hey, man, can you get her purse out of here and move that money? I said, for real? And he goes, why? I said, because if it comes up missing, who do you think is going to be the person they think took it? Straight up. That party clears out and they go, damn, Tommy Scoville was here and there's a pile of money missing. Guess what? Right? I earned that. I'm not bitter about it. That's on me. If money comes up missing, I'm a good fucking bet. Sorry. It's what I did. I did it for a really long time. If that had been me while I was using, I'd have snatched that shit out of that purse so fast to make your head spin. And it wouldn't have bothered me. It wouldn't have. And then I would have probably borrowed their phone to call the dope man, have him meet me down the street. All right? It's a disgusting, disgusting disease. Probably the most insidious one out there. No, you didn't offend me. I don't know if you were talking to me or not. No, I'm not offended, Maria. No, nobody's offended me. Here's the thing. They may have been testing me. I don't know. I mean, maybe. I can't stand being in those situations. I don't like being in those situations at all. You know what I mean? The watch business. I sell really expensive watches, right? I sell all kinds of watches, but I have some watches that are really, really expensive. And I worked with a dude in Nevada, and we were working together and working on a bench together because he had the ultimate set of watch tools. So he would let me come down and work on watches because he had all the more modern equipment. I was using some really old stuff. And a watch came up missing while the two of us were there. And I remember him putting his hand on mine, and he goes, hey, I can't find, and he said the kind of watch it was. And I said, dude, he goes, don't say it. He goes, because I don't think he took it. And he goes, and I know how you're going to take this as a convict. He goes, I don't think for a hot second you took it. He goes, in fact, I don't think it's not in this room anymore. He's like, I'm almost 100% sure it's in this room, but we have no idea what we're doing. We need to find it. And it was not in the room. Somebody had stolen it. And as it turned, they were able to run the cameras back and everything else, and they caught the person. And I remember saying to him afterwards, if that wasn't on camera, and he said, I never would have thought it was you. But this is a dude who spent years with me, right? Like we spent a lot of time together. In fact, I've told the story on here before, but the way I met the guy, somebody said to me, oh, you like Omegas? I said, yeah. He goes, you need to head over to such and such a place because this guy sells, he does a lot with Omega watches. And I went over and he pulled one out and he handed it to me. And I said, what are you trying to get for this? And he goes, $1,600. And I went, I can't give you $1,600 for this. And he's like, do 1,400? And I go, dude, if I take 1,600, the day is coming where you're going to come back to my house with a pistol. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, this is an $8,000 watch. It might even be a $10,000 watch. Like, we need to look at the serial numbers and shit. But this is a very expensive watch, man. It's not worth $1,600, man. So I'm not going to do it. That would be really bad for him, especially this early on getting to know you. You know what I'm saying? And he was blown away. 2 days later, he came by and he goes, hey, have you ever seen one of these? And it was it's a trench watch, like a World War I trench watch, but it was an Omega and it was sterling silver. I went, oh, not in real life. He goes, it's yours, man. Take it. And I go, bro, I can't take this watch. And I mean, it's not worth a fortune, but it's worth over $1,000, right? And I said, I can't take this watch. He's like, well, you could have taken that one yesterday for $1,600. He's like, you can have it. And me and this dude ended up being really, really good friends. But you know something? You got to be really, really honest with yourself, right? If people don't trust you, you earn that. That's on you. I'm dealing with this every minute of every day. I'm never going to be trusted. It's part of life. And it doesn't make it any easier if you earned it, right? It doesn't. But it's probably worth being aware of the fact that you earned it, right? Thank you, Shell. I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate that. And I know most people here do. It's just it's one of those things. All sober addicts are defending champions. Damn straight, man. Damn straight. One of my favorite expressions. It takes a miracle for somebody to get sober. It really does. It takes a mother-loving miracle for somebody to beat this. And those miracles are a dime a dozen. I swear to God, they are. I see them every single day. I'm watching them with Turd Ferguson as we speak. That dude's a walking miracle. He is. You know something? You do this long enough, and there are people who will bullshit themselves while they bullshit you. And whether or not they know it or not, I've never been able to figure it out. But after you do it long enough, you get pretty good at it. The ride that this guy took to that place yesterday, it's amazing. He showed up. He relived every shitty thing he ever did in his life on that ride to rehab yesterday. God, in his infinite wisdom, go ahead and hate me for that, but God, in his infinite wisdom, gave him a driver that didn't speak English. Beautiful. He texted me and said, I can't even have a conversation. I'm dying. I said, good. It's a beautiful thing, right? You got to tear yourself down a little bit before you build yourself back up. Randomly, Tiffany, thank you. You know something? Here's the deal. The whole being honest with the audience thing, everything is going to get found out, right? There's nothing for if you do what I do for a living and you choose not to not to talk about it, you're an asshat, because whatever happens in your past, you're going to get found out anyway. Analytical Blarney, thank you so much for all your support. Your never-ending support. I really appreciate you, and I mean that. No cigarettes for a week, but started vaping. Should we yell at you for that? What do you think, peeps? Should we yell at her for that? She's vaping. You know why they call it vaping? Because it's vapor, right? You know why they call it smoking? Because it's smoke. In order to get smoke, you have to light something on fire, right? So that's like what, 400 and some odd degrees Fahrenheit or some shit like that. I can't remember what it is, but it's a lot. It's really hot. Vapor is not. So are either of them good for your lungs? No. But I promise you that's harm reduction. You're vaping, knock yourself out, right? I'm sorry. If I guess I'm not good at the rehab thing, but I'm not going to bitch at anybody that's doing harm reduction, because I'm watching harm reduction save people's lives every freaking day, right? The guy that trades heroin for weed, good trade, right? Proud of you. I'm a functioning addict, but I am escalating. What is the best first step to stop a downward spiral? Well, you need to quit, right? And that's a shit thing to hear, isn't it? Functioning addicts are like regular addicts. They just have less dents in their car, right? I mean, it still owns you. And I'm not being disrespectful. I promise I'm not. But it still owns you. And that's, someone earlier said, what's an alcoholic? It's someone owned by alcohol. What's a heroin addict? Somebody owned by heroin. I wasn't at the wheel. I didn't have any control of my life. And we can pretend that we do, right? We can pretend we have control over our lives. We can bullshit ourselves. I did for a long time. But just because the bills are getting paid doesn't mean that we're functioning. I'm not being disrespectful, but I used to make 30 grand a month, right? That was no lie. I made 30 grand a month. And at the end of the month, at least 3 or 4 times a year, I had to go to my friend Danny and go, hey, can I borrow like 8 grand? And he'd go, you can't make your bills? I go, I can't. I spent it all on dope. It's tough. But this is Monique, I promise I'm going to wrap that up. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to wrap that up in about 2 seconds. The best first step to stop a downward spiral, you just did, right? Honestly, the first step's over. You just said, I'm a functioning addict, right? And granted, You're knocking the corners off of it, right? But we all do that. We all soften shit up a little bit. But you're an addict, and that's what you just said out loud, right? I'm an addict. I don't care whether it's you drink that stuff, you smoke that stuff, you snort that. It doesn't make any difference at all. You're an addict, right? Okay. You just admitted it. And I promise you that is the first step. The rest of all the steps and everything else, you can argue with everybody. But no matter whose program you go with, if you can't admit that you have a problem, you're wasting your time. So now what you need to do is you need to get pen to paper, right? And make a list of all of the reasons that you don't want to be addicted anymore. And for me, I couldn't put me on the list. I effing hated me. I did. It was everything I could do to not put a gun in my mouth. And I'm not saying that for effect. That's where I was at. I didn't want to live anymore. Right. So how am I going to make, you got to quit for you. No, you don't. You don't. You won't stay sober if you don't do it for you, but you can quit for somebody else. I quit for my kid. I quit for my dad. I quit for my mom. I quit for my brother and sister. I didn't quit for me. I didn't. Oh, gambling too. It doesn't matter what the addiction is. It honestly doesn't matter what the addiction is. It just doesn't. Diane Connor, thank you so much. Diane O'Connor, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. But saying that out loud, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if you know what a big deal that is, right? Because that's massive. To say I'm an addict is massive. I hated being sick, says Meep. You know something that's terrifying, right? Since the lifeboat has gotten up and running, we're closing in on hundreds, literally, of people that we paid to put on medical assisted treatment, right? And get in there. And the number of people who say, I didn't quit because I was afraid to get sick. We're losing 300 people a day because they're afraid of getting sick. And everybody that quits with me doesn't get sick. You don't have to get sick. There's the reason you do medical assisted treatment is because you don't want to get sick. I quit for my family before I quit for me. Well, what do you know? Right? What do you know? Someone that can honestly say that. I didn't quit for me, man. I hated me. I absolutely hated me. You know what, people? I got a text today from Q's attorney who said to me, I really think we won this one. We haven't heard from the court yet, but I wasn't there. Right, I couldn't be in there, but she was in there and Q was in there, and both of them have said the same thing. You know what? I really think we won this. So we're going to see what happens. I'm pretty fired up about that. Why is Diddy scared? Here's why Diddy's scared. The realization of everything that's going on in this man's life is setting in. After the third time he got kicked down for bail and he realized he's never going to get out, at least until trial, right? Well, why did he think he was going to get out? Right? Why did he think he was going to get out? And why did he go into this big postpartum depression thing when he found out he wasn't? Well, because his attorney told him he was going to get out. His attorney said, you come to New York and turn yourself in. It's going to make you look good. We're going to put a bail package together. Don't trip, man. We're going to put so much money up. We're going to put so much. We'll tell them you'll put on an ankle monitor. We'll hire a firm. We'll give them so many reasons to let you out that they can't not. You're a mogul. You're a tycoon. You're a billionaire. They're going to let you out. Just got to put up all this money. When that didn't happen, what do you think happened to the diddler? Well, he had another group of lawyers that were about to charge him about 5 large, right, to handle the appeal. And he went, no, pull that appeal back. I don't want to pay for that. I'm not sending you up to go argue in front of judges, for $5 million to get kicked down again. No. That says less about him not believing in his case, and it says a lot more about him not believing in his lawyers. So what's happening right now is the wheels are starting to come off. Right? His lawyers have been promising him the sky since this thing got started, but they haven't had a win yet. Every single time they go in and talk, and now the judge is starting to piss and moan. The judge is starting to yell at Agnifilo and say stuff to him that makes him sound like a bit of a punk. Right? When you make representations to the court, sir, please make sure that those representations are accurate. That may not sound all that ugly, but in court speak, that's pretty ugly. The judge just said, you know what? You're a liar. Don't lie to my court. This isn't looking good, man. This isn't looking good. And it's starting to sink in for the diddler. He also is seeing what it looks like when there's somebody incarcerated that people think is cool. Diddy's been telling himself this whole time that he's locked up that everybody in there thinks he's cool. And then he says, Mangione cat get in there, and everybody's talking about how that dude's a vigilante. What he did, man, that's a stand-up thing. I don't believe that, by the way. But you don't understand what I'm saying? They're talking about how this is such a great dude, And yeah, my grandmother got screwed over by insurance. I'm glad this Mangione guy did this. They're all talking about this dude. And Mr. Combs has been the center of attention for his entire life. And he's starting to realize, in my humble opinion, that if he takes this to the box, right, he's not going to be the kind of center of attention that he wants. Why did Diddy do the things that he did? Because he likes sex? What do you think? He did the things that he did because he likes control, right? He's a control freak. He doesn't do these things because it's a sexual thing. It's a control thing. It's a humiliation thing. He has to be the most powerful and the most, right? Everything. He is the king, right? He's the guy that's pulling the strings. He's the guy that's making everything happen. How's he going to do that in the situation that he's in? Well, he's going to write a proffer letter. His faith in his attorneys are coming off, right? He spent Christmas, New Year's incarcerated after these attorneys said to him, we're going to get you out, I promise you. And I guarantee you they said that. Guaranteed they said that. And if you're wondering how I make that guarantee, you go back and watch how Agnifilo came out after the first night when the magistrate judge, who always is going to leave you in there overnight anyway. In fact, I'm sure he said to that person, thank you again, Diane O'Connor. I'm sure that he said, Puff, they're not going to let you, the first judge isn't going to let you out. It's Mandra. All he's going to do, pro forma, is kick it down. But within 2 days, you'll be back in front of that. But he came out that first night and said, this is ridiculous. This is unfortunate that it went down the way that it did. He didn't need to be arrested. He would have turned himself in. We anticipate him being out on bail as soon as we talk to the judge. He did anticipate him being out on jail. Agnifilo really thought, you're right, he did spend his birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas. He did all of them right in a row. I'm telling you, people, those holidays are a bitch in there, man. So we're into the second week of January. He's probably starting. I did say hi to somebody from Abbotsford. I'm pretty sure. He's a savage. Whatever he wants, he gets. And when he gets it, he just wants more. Boy, there was a hell of a lot of truth to that, wasn't there? Hold on 1 second, everybody. Sorry, folks. Sorry about that. This was somebody that might be freaking out. That they're not. But it's a drug thing. Sorry. Yeah, so Nana Boo. Well, that's really where it's at, right? But I promise you, all of this diet stuff, allegedly, he's just eating out of the commissary. He's terrified to eat the food that they're bringing him. Why? Because he knows that people want that people dislike him. And if you've been putting shit in people's drinks for the last 30 years, think you're worried about the food? Think you're worried about your drink? This guy's been putting chemicals in people's food and drink his entire life. I'm sure he's scared crapless that people are going to try to unalive him. He also knows more than any of us, right? He has a real good idea all of the dirt he's done. He knows all of those laws that he's broken, right? I love it. How cool is that? Stephanie from Canada says, on a positive note, a reminder that neighbors stand by neighbors, not being political. I agree with you. Okay. Can we follow the Nazira Harris trial? How does everyone else feel about that? I'm not opposed to it. Kenneth, have a great night. I'm not opposed to it, peeps, at all. I want to go where you guys want me to go. I really do. But by the way, for all of my friends overseas, this is the coolest shirt ever. Not everybody gets it in the States, but check this out. Can you guys see that? The family tree. One stinks of elderberries, and the other is a hamster. It's a great reference and a great t-shirt. You know something? As crazy as it is, there is an awful lot of truth to this. Do I believe in karma? I may not call it karma, right? But yeah, absolutely, I believe in it. I've watched it happen way too often in my life. I was telling Reese today. This was honestly the conversation that we had today. It catches up with everybody. You can get away with it. You know, one of the best things I've ever heard anybody say about this case was Suge Knight. Suge Knight's response to what happened to Diddy was incredible. And it was stone cold, one criminal to another criminal, nothing else. He said, Diddy, you had a hell of a run. Are you kidding? You had a great run. Now, go to prison and do your time. And what the dude was saying was, everything you did was against the law, fool. Everything you did was against the law. You got rich, right? You rented boats for $1 million a week. You had your own jet. It cost you $100,000 every time you went somewhere, but you didn't give a shit because you were made of money. You lived in mansions worth $70 million, right? You had parties where you brought in girls in every, age group and demographic and then abused them while you had chemically knocked them out. You did whatever you wanted to do in life. Guess what? Pay up, right? Pay the mother-loving fiddler because you've been dancing for 3 decades on the souls of other people. It's time to pay the fiddler, Sean. Boy, oh boy. I'll tell you something. I have a friend, calls himself Diesel Therapy. You'll see him in the chat occasionally. And we used to sit together and have conversations because he's wildly intelligent. I hope to have him on the show. He's super, super smart. And the two of us would sit and have conversations, and he would say to me, Rocco, do you think it's a lot easier doing time if you're stupid? And the truth of the matter is, it's a lot easier doing time if you're stupid. It is. But if you had a life, if you were going out and doing things, like if you were gunning and having fun, prison's a lot harder. When you hear people telling stories and they were like, yeah, well, I was sleeping in a dumpster behind a Walmart, and I finally got the courage up and just went in and robbed a bank. Like, you find those bank robbers in prison, desperation bank robbery. And these people, they're like, oh, you're a bank robber too. And you'd look up and be like, man, no, we weren't the same thing. For real, we weren't, right? You just, he sold his soul to the devil. Yes, he did. He absolutely did, right? This cat sold his soul to the devil, and it's time to pay up. It's time to pay up. It's a terrible thing. And Diddy's smart. You can say what you will about the dude. He's, in a lot of ways, he's a moron, right? But this guy didn't get to be a billionaire by being stupid, or almost a billionaire by being stupid, right? The guy definitely knows how to play it, right? He's good at playing the game, probably better than he should be. Yes, it is on. I fired in your general direction. So it's a Monty Python reference. Noah Wright, I think that the diddler is absolutely going to snitch to get a lighter sentence. I absolutely think he's going to. But he's not going to do it until he is well aware that it's all over but the crying. And I think that realization is setting in with him, right? I really believe that realization is setting in with him. And he's in there not eating, not drinking, right? Or getting everything he's getting out of commissary. So the guy's buying bottled water. He is so paranoid that someone wants to poison him, right? That he's living a really bizarre existence. And I think it's fairly safe to say that he's reaching that point where you realize that if you do not cut a deal, this is the rest of your life. He's walking out of that cell in the morning, right? He's been there long enough now. And you would have to do time to understand this, honestly. But we used to joke about it. Like, you'd see a guy get arrested and he comes into jail and he's in that intake unit. He ain't going to shower. I promise you, he's not getting in the shower. If he gets in the shower, he's guilty. He's guilty of everything they accused him of. Why? Because he knows he ain't going anywhere, so he may as well get clean, go in there and get comfortable. But these other guys, if I shower in here, I'm an inmate. I'm going home, man. I'm bailing out. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I ain't showering in here. And you'll watch guys be like, date 9. You know what I mean? When that person goes in there and showers, they've begun to tap out. That's the first step in that this is my world. But one of these mornings, Diddy's going to wake up, right? And he's not going to open his eyes and go, oh, jeez, I'm in a jail cell. He's going to wake up and realize the second his eyes open, this is his life. Because I'm telling you, for the first 3 or 4 months, every time you open your eyes, you're like, concrete, doors locked. I'm in this. You spend 54 years free, and you spend 60 days incarcerated. Your brain hasn't come to grips with incarcerated yet. I promise. Do I think he'll be protected in prison? No, I don't. I think that people will put some money up. People will take his cash. They absolutely will take his cash. What is the best deal you think he could get if he snitches? 30 years. That's my gut. My gut says if he was willing to spill everything, he might be able to get a 30-year sentence. And then what they'll do is they'll come to him and say to him, all right, well, with 85%, so you're going to get a year and a half off. So basically, you can knock 5 years off with good time. That's 25 years. That is your best bet right there, 25 years. Now, if you're Diddy, what does that put you at 80? It's tough. What he's got to be able to do. Hold on. Did you hear that that Diddy told DJ Academic on the phone, see you when I get out? Tekashi 6ix9ine handed Diddy the phone to talk to him. Can you imagine them in jail together? Randomly, Tiffany, are you sure of this? Did you you know what? Here's the thing. Randomly, Tiffany chased she shit down. She probably is sure of this. That's bizarre, right? Because this is what is alleged. It's alleged that Tekashi 6ix9ine is in general population. That's what they've been reporting since he got there. In fact, they reported that he went to a judge and said, though I don't need to be in protective custody. I want to be in general population. And I never believed that story. I didn't, not because, look, maybe he thinks he's hella hard. I don't believe that for a second. I don't. But maybe he thinks he's hella hard. The BOP would never do that. Like, that didn't make any sense to me from a BOP. Yeah. Are you a member of the Facebook group page? Jan Marie, are you on the Facebook group page? If you are not, would you please get over there and become a member? And then you pop up and you put a post in the Facebook group page. This is just for Lifeboat. You put a post up, say, I'm looking for my 5. And then people will say, hey, great, what's your substance of choice? It doesn't have to be this way, but sometimes it helps. I recommend that people don't get people that share the same drug. Like, I have a much easier time talking to cocaine addicts. We go through the same thing, but they're not going to glorify my drug by accident and make me want to use, if that makes sense. Diddle your way to that like button all. Yeah, and you know what, people? I am going to go and get ready because, believe it or not, hey, Kathy Ann, good to see you. Russ, good to see you. I have a show that I need to be doing in about 35 minutes, so I need to go and get ready for that. So I will see all of you hopefully in 35 minutes right here on this channel for the Night Yard with my 2 brothers from the yard. That would be Russ and Casper. Hopefully we'll see all of you there. Thank you for spending some time with me. I appreciate you more than I know. Or more than you know, maybe. See you on the next one. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody.